And I'm going to note 2 air conditioning units. I'm going to go through, I'm going to take pictures of the air handler. I'm going to note the serial number to document that I can figure out the age of the serial number. I'm going to take pictures of the serial number, the HVAC. I mean, you name it, I've taken a picture of it. I've written a note about it. I'm going to put gas water heater. I'm going to put electric water heater. I'm going to ask for sure, is the washer and dryer staying, or the appliances staying? Are those appliances stainless? Anything special? Anything that's been upgraded? All the questions. You cannot ask them questions. And people want to talk about themselves and want to talk about their home. And the more you ask, the more engaged they're going to be. Because the majority of people that come through, they're just going to go, yeah, that's great. And so you should listen to me because I'm amazing, and me. And they want to talk about them. They want you to care about what they want. So you're building a relationship with those people, and that's going to give you a leg up. Once you've got all of those notes and everything, what you want to come to the table. Do you want me to slow down? I see all right notes. Once you have got all those, you're going to sit down at the table, and what you're going to need to bring to the listing is you're going to need to bring, you need to make sure you're meeting with the right people. Like, that's important. Like, I have shown up at listings, and a long time ago, I don't do this anymore, but I've showed up at listings, and I'm like, great, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you live here? And then, well, actually, it's my mother's grandmother's sister's house, and she just died, and my mother's sister is the executor of the will. And you're just like, whoa, why are you here? So you just want to make sure that you're meeting with the correct people. So when you log on to the PVA, are you guys all familiar on having an account in the PVA? Okay. When you log on to the PVA, you can print, I would definitely print out the PVA. That's going to have an estimate of square footage. You're not going to use that, but it's just going to give you an idea. It's going to give you an idea of what they paid for that property. So you're going to have some idea. So if you think the house is worth $200,000 and they paid $275 last year, you're wrong. It's going to be bad. It's going to be, so you need to be prepared for that. So if you roll in there and you're like, their house is worth $200,000 and they pay $275, look, you need to be prepared. You need to know all the facts about this house. So you pull the PVA, what that's worth. You're going to, I always put a copy of the deed, or Renee puts a copy of the deed in the folder, just so I can say proper legal spellings for paperwork, all the things, has what they paid, when they bought it, to help them, because when you're filling out that seller's disclosure, they're like, I bought it sometime 2010 to 2017, and I'm not sure. And you got the deed showing when that transfer was actually. So you want to be, you want to be the authority. You want to be knowledgeable on everything. And the more you know about their house, like sometimes I go in and I know more about their house than they do, and they're like, oh, amazing. Not always, but sometimes.
Sometimes you walk in and you know the garage door code because you know who the builder was.
Yeah, and they never change. So you're like, oh yeah, I sold this house back in yup. And then also you want to make sure, and you don't have to take these to closing or to the listing, but you want to have a copy of those deed restrictions too. Because you're going to, as the listing agent, you're going to get questions. Can I park my trailer in driveway? Am I going to park, and can I have chain link fencing? You're need to get it and answer those questions on the fly. So that's just something else you need to have. And then obviously you need to have your comparables and a CMA. If you are not confident in what that value is while you're at the listing patient or presentation, tell them that. Honesty is the best thing, especially in this market. I've literally sat down so many times recently and said, y'all, your house is way nicer than I thought. I can't tell anything from PVA. I didn't know that you had, a kitchen the size of the whole house, and all the improvements that you made, and a 14 by 25 deck off the back. No idea. So I'm going to have to go back and just tell them, and they're going to be fine, and say, give them a deadline of when you're going to get back to them and tell them what those adjustments are going to be. When you do your CMA on that, are you guys familiar with how to do a CMA and like what, because that's important. That's going to help you find your value. So let's say we are doing a CMA for Hampton Roads subdivision, Hampton Ridge subdivision. For anybody, if anybody on Ashland? Do you know?
You can just give the high level explanation. of
Yeah.
Cookie cutter.
It's a cookie cutter subdivision. You got 2 stories, you got ranches, you got basements, all the things. And you're just going to want to go back 6 months. If you cannot find the comparables for 6 months, you're going to go back 1 year, no more than 1 year, unless you just are really struggling. But you're going to go back 6 months to a year. And if you're listing a 1-story home, you're going to try to only for 1-story homes. You're listing something on a basement, only things on basements. Just find this most similar thing and then do a breakdown of that price per square foot. I'm not a huge believer in price per square foot in this market. It's going to be your best way to go. So just do a breakdown of your price per square foot and just drop that on the sheet. Print those 6 different comparables, jot them on the sheet. I usually do an average, and then I do a scenario for each average that I get. Like I do a scenario, if the highest price per square foot was 100, the lowest price per square foot was 80, and the average is 90, I'm going to do 3 different scenarios for pricing, and then I'm going to win. Because if it's the nicest home, then I'm going to use that 100, and then if it's the 100, then you're going to use that 80. So you just want to be prepared with some scenarios, or it's going to be really hard to do that on the fly. And if none of those apply, you don't even have to show them that sheet with the breakdown. You're just going to show them the comparables and say, I'm really sorry, this isn't exactly what I thought I'd find online. Like the records weren't great online, so I'm going to have to go back and run some more comparables. And people are going to be appreciative that you're thorough.
I had to do that last month. They didn't.
Nobody cares.
I was like, I'll call you tomorrow with the, you know, I'm not sure.
And this market is super forgiving too, because I literally have just sat down and said, I have no idea what I'm doing in this market, because every time I price something, it goes 20,000 above, and I don't know what's going to happen. Things to ask them for that are going to help you down the line to go smoother is you're going to ask them, Mr. and Mr. Seller, I'm going to need a copy of the key. I'm going to need 12-month utilities. That is going to be electric, water, sewer, gas. And I'm going to need an old appraisal. Why do you need an old appraisal? I'm going to say, well, I need to see that square footage on there because that's going to be the most accurate square footage. If you've got that, great. 9 out of 10 times they're going to find it. They're going to dig through their paperwork. It's not going to be there. And then you say, it's probably in your email, and it's in your email. And then you just scan in a copy, just say, may I take a screenshot of the square footage, and that's going to help you tremendously. So you're not out there trying to measure the property. And if you do, I have an app for that too.
What's the app? I need that app in my life so bad.
Win total. My dress isn't there. Tiffany, you dress
WIN.
sorry, that's super professional. I usually put my clothes on for listing.
WIN.
Thank you. WIN total, TOTAL. I can send you a screenshot of what that app is. And if you need to measure it out, then it'll calculate it for you and you can label everything. Keep a copy of those measurements or that appraisal measurement in your file. Because if you screwed up and missed 100 square feet in the house, the appraisal catches it and says, well, where did you get 2,000 square feet? I only got 1,600 square feet or whatever that is. Then you can say, look, I gave my best good faith effort to do my due diligence and I measured this house out and here's my measurement in my dollar file. And you can show that and that'll protect you 100%. So always, always, always protect yourself. Either you've gotten an appraisal, you've measured it out. If you don't feel comfortable measuring it out, I've got 2 or 3 appraisers that'll run out and do it for about 75 bucks. They'll measure a house and it is worth it for sure that you know that you're doing something accurately. Old mortgage statement, or not an old mortgage, a current mortgage statement. In your listing paperwork, you should always have the seller payoff authorization form, which is in our .lit files. Definitely fill that out. And then I always get the seller to put the last 4 digits of their social security number on the bottom line. It honestly just saves you, if you fill out their mortgage information, you have the last four digits of their social, it saves trips of you going back to get wet signatures, because for a mortgage payoff to be obtained, they have to have a signature, they can't have an auto signature. Questions so far?
You get a picture of their license while you're there too.
I do not. Mary Jo always does. She always does it, but I do not.
That's something I can easily fix. You like.
Yeah. I don't ever get that. If it's something that I know that's gonna have to be signed in person, I just get it there. Then I typically don't. And I do always get, because nobody knows how old any of their, I said that about serial numbers. There is a website. It's, Ross, you may know this too. I think it's Building Intelligence Center. If you Google serial number, let's see, age of hot water heater by serial number, or age of carrier hot water heater by, or not carrier, carrier HVAC unit by serial number, you will pull up a site called Building Intelligence Center, and it will tell you all the different types of serial number for a carrier HVAC, for a train HVAC, and you can 99.9% always figure out what the age of that hot water heater. And if it doesn't jive, but ask questions to the seller too, make sure it jives. Like if the house was built in 2020 and the HVAC is reading that it's 2015 or something wrong. But just make sure it jives with what they're telling you, and that'll be helpful too. I'm giving you a, I told you it'd be random.
So would that still be possible though, Robin? Say it's a year or two old, if you're, you're talking about a developer or a builder, maybe they're buying some of that in wholesale. And it might be a year or two.
Yeah.
before the
Yeah,
house.
and you will find that too. So
5 years would be a stretch, but a year or two.
and it always is, it's always like a year behind. Like, so I had one 2 days ago and they were like, we put that in 2018 and the serial number is manufactured in 2017. So that's just a guide to go in there. At the end of the day, you can't tell them what to put in the seller's disclosure. It's just a guide to be helpful to kind of show them what you can advise on the seller's disclosure, unfortunately, but it's just kind of giving you an idea. Always, when you talked through, and I'll pass around my listing presentation. Renee, can I get a couple more of these to pass around? Okay, this is my listing presentation. You can walk through there. It has just the marketing steps that I do. If you don't have, like I have recent sales, all the different things, you can always work off of what Keller Williams has done. You can always work through, there is a listing presentation. Yeah, in command, and you can create your own, so easy to do. Just ask Renee. Go into designs. And then there's a little plus. There we go. A little plus sign, click on that, go to print. And then under listings, there's a listing presentation template. You can go in and upload all of your stuff, and it looks amazing. It looks so nice. And I'm going to be honest, nobody looks at my listing presentation. I print out all these books and I got all these stats and all these things in it. Nobody looks at it.
Still.
You don't have one? Yeah,
Yes,
I just have it to leave, and I just tell people, I'm like, it just gives you.
I have a couple of handouts and stuff that I give them, but not like rah, look at me stuff, like the stuff I probably should have.
Nobody looks at it. Doesn't matter what you got in there. You can put, I've got flying monkeys that put up my signs and nobody cares. You just want it to look pretty and
A nice
professional.
cover photo,
Yeah,
that's
and
all that matters.
You need to have a nice cover photo, but I do have something towards the back. If you go all the way towards the back. Now just kidding. I've got a notes section because people are always searching for notes. I've got favorite things. I saw that from this listing thing. One thing I love is, again, people like to talk about their homes Thanks, Tommy. Is it's got the top 5 things when I leave. I'm like, can you please fill out the financials, all the things. Sometimes we actually, if somebody calls me, I wasn't referred, they just called me because they found me on some website. We will mail these ahead of time. So if I have a listing next week, we'll mail this ahead of time and just say, hey, if you don't know anything about me, here's just a little snippet. And then at the back, could you have this ready? And I've shown up at listings and they have had this whole thing filled out. It's name, phone number, email. Let's see, what's the most important thing you're looking for in a listing agent? What real estate transaction experiences have you had? How would you like to be communicated? Why are you moving? Where are you moving? Financials, how much do you think your house is worth? And then what I need from you is spare key, a flat, mortgage statement, the things I just went over, and then list your 5 favorite things about your home and your community. And I've had lots of people, that's sometimes an icebreaker too. I show up and they have their key, their mortgage statement, their appraisal, all laid out, all the things filled out. That only happens like 1 out of 5 times, but that 1 out of 5 times, that's way less work I have to do because they've already read through it. They know who I am. They feel like they trust me already. And then they already have that filled out. So I know a lot more about them. Questions? And then you guys can screenshot or we can email a copy of whatever on there too. Let's see. Any questions? Anything that I'm not getting that you guys want me to hit? Come on. And then I handed out your connecting questions in there too.
This is just, how long are you usually there?
Way too long. I'm a talker, obviously. Way too long. Like we're best friends by the time I leave.
That's a lot. Like 2 or 3 hours
No, I'm never there over like an hour.
I've been there though. Those are excruciating.
No, I'm usually,
my goal is an hour. Like last night I was there an hour. Good.
Yeah.
But sometimes.
is that with listing paperwork too?
No,
So I'm
I
typically,
mean, if it's the 2 or 3 hours, that's needed to get. We do the paperwork right there.
my goal is an hour. I'm usually never out more than an hour and a half if I've taken thorough notes. But honestly, it keeps me from going back. Like I've talked about things, I write down pet names, like all the things about it. And you always ask, here's another thing too, is ask questions about how are they showing, what's this gonna look like? How is this gonna show? I see you've got 3 toddlers and 2 pit bulls. Like how are you gonna show this house? Like you just need to know that. Another thing that you said to me, Tommy, is how do you tactfully tell them when things need to be staged? So when I go into, is this helpful you all? I'm just like rambling. Okay. When I go into something too, I ask them to walk me through the home, but I first ask them, and I should have said this a long time ago, ask them what they want to gain from this. Like, is the main objective of this just you want to know the price and you're going to put it on and you don't care what needs to be done? Or do you want staging tips? Do you want to know what the home inspector is going to say? Do you want to know, like, how much do you want me to go into this? And depending upon what their answer is, then that's how we proceed. Some people
determines your approach.
absolutely, because I have lost listings because I have launched into, I'm bossy. I've launched into, well, you need to fix this and you need to fix that. People don't want to spend a ton of money. If they do want to say, well, we're willing to spend a couple $1,000s to fix this house up, and we think we're going to get a bigger return on that, then that's good to know up front. But some people don't want to put 1 dime into it. Some people don't have a dime to put into it. You just need to know that before you go in and slinging around things. Because I said, paint the orange room, do this, and lost the listing because they were very off put by my responses. So always know up front what their expectation is. So nobody's been offended. I've said I smell cat pee, I smell smoke, and if they are a little offended by it, first just say, listen, I just want to be honest with you. Either you're going to hear it from me and it's not going to cost you anything, or you're gonna hear it from a buyer and it's gonna cost you possibly a buyer $1,000, because people are looking for things to nitpick on your home. So you wanna make sure that you take care of all those up front, but make sure you have their permission to be that blunt with them up front. And most people are fine with it. Very few times they want your help. I mean, very few times do they not want you to be vocal, and I just kind of make a joke about it and say, listen, I'm really blunt. We're gonna be friends afterwards, but like through this process, I'm gonna like guide you through it so you can get the most money out of the house. So, and people appreciate that. So far as staging, actually, I learned this from Jenny Matty a long time ago. She said that if there's things that she advises, and this is great advice, if things that she advises people to buy, then they're things that are tangible that they can take with them. So if it's a hideous comforter that's covered with dog hair, then you can say, hey, why don't you get a fresh white? White is always a good color because it's light, it's bright. Women don't try to match things up, just white, neutral, tan, white shower curtains, white towels, all the things that are just light and bright that are going to make those spaces look bigger. And just have it, these things that they can take the shower curtain, they can take the new white towels with them to their new house. White matches everything, unless they just hate white. White curtains. So I always tell them, another thing I always tell people to do, probably 8 out of 10 homes I go into have baskets in the laundry room because they have all the products up there, and just say, listen, go to the Dollar Tree, go to the dollar store, go to Walmart, put all those products in a basket. It just eliminates some clutter. So feel free to do all that, and people usually will do what you say. They want your help and they want to get the max dollar out of it. Any specific questions about staging or anything like that?
You told me before to tell people if you're moving anyway, start boxing up. They're like really cluttered. Start boxing stuff up and get it out.
My rule of closets, if it doesn't attack you, and I actually had one attack me last week. I opened the door and it like all fell out on top of me. But if the closet doesn't attack you, like it's fine, unless it just really looks bad. Garages packed full are fine as long as it's boxed up, like she said. Like just don't have all your stuff thrown in there. Just get some nice packing boxes and stack them up. Because when people are walking through, everybody needs to declutter. You want that buyer to be thinking, hey, well, they can be out in 30 or 45 days, not, oh my gosh, how are these people going to get all their stuff out? Because then that'll deter people and they can't really even see the house. So, connecting questions with people. If there are, these are just some icebreakers. Tell me a little bit about like your family, your job, life, why, what's going on with you. What are you looking for? Like, where are you going to move to? In this market, it's really important to understand, don't throw somebody into a listing agreement and not have a plan and help them through, are they going to rent? Are they going to buy? Are they going to go live with mom? Whatever they're going to do, understand what that is. Where would you like to be? Why are you moving? It's a job transfer. We can't afford our house. We want something bigger, like all those questions, and that's going to help you get somewhere. How quickly, time frame is so huge. I'm pretty energetic and I go in and I think everybody wants to list with me like immediately. And sometimes they're like, oh, we want to do this in 4 months. And which, yeah, that kind of throws you off your game because you came in thinking you're going to sign a listing. And so just understand what that time, and then as you're leaving, just get a plan so you don't have a listing that could be your listing 4 months down the road and you drop the ball. So just say, is it okay if I touch base with you weekly or bi-weekly, just to make sure that we're still on the same page and you're getting those decluttering items. Never, ever, ever leave a listing and just say, okay, thanks, it was great to meet you. We'll talk soon. Like, don't do that. Have a plan for how you're going to follow up with it. Can I call you weekly? Can I call you bi-weekly? Do you want me to text you? Do you want me to call you? I have an investor that has 0 things to sell right now, but I still text him every other week and say, hey, Bill, just checking in, seeing when you're going to have something else.
But in the event there were 3 or 4 months delay like that, and you're touching base, let's say monthly or every couple of weeks, it would probably benefit just to update the value of what the market's driving. Because it swings so much in that time frame.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
even if the touch point is, hey, it's been a month since we spoke, this is
Yep.
what the market's doing and where the house could be.
Yep.
Based on where we were last month.
So what I do in that instance is I typically give them a general. I don't say your house is gonna be
Yeah.
worth
What they were.
225. I say it's gonna be around, somewhere in the mid 200s is where I'm thinking, and the market's gonna fluctuate between now and then, and we'll do a more accurate. And just explain to them that where the appraisal is gonna come in is gonna be in the last 6 months of comps. So those comps are gonna change if they're not listing in 4 months. So it's in the mid 200s, but that could change, and just don't give them an exact value. Because if you give them an exact value,
That's what
and you
they're
don't
saying.
follow up, and then they come back and they say, well, Robin told me it was worth 225 and they listed with another realtor, then I've given them all my knowledge and listed with something else. So you just have to make sure to follow up and make sure that, they want to keep coming back to you. Questions? I just included my little 411. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the 411. This isn't really a listing presentation thing, but this is when I feel like I'm off my goals. This is way out in left field, sorry. But when I'm off my goals, then I always go back and do a 411 and it brings me in. Are you guys familiar with the 411 or what that is? Okay, so you got, like on this one, this is just a really nice simple one. So my annual goals are going to be, I want to sell 225 listings this year, or 225 sales, whatever that is. And then I break it down to how many that means that I'm doing each month, and how many I'm going to need to visit each month to get me to that. So I just work it, I go with a big goal, I work it backwards. And then, so I say, if I'm going to do, let's see, 120 listings, then I want to list 12 a month. And that means that I probably need to go visit 18 a month. And then that means that I need to visit and have at least 4 to 5 listing appointments a week. And so I need to be calling at least X number of people a day. So it just works it backwards and it pulls me back on track. So this is huge for me. You can use it, you don't have to use it, but I just really like this because it really centers you. If you're flailing around and you're like, I don't know, I'm not getting the listings, and maybe it's because you're simply just not calling enough people, you're not touching enough people. So you just break it down and say, okay, I'm calling 5 people a week and I really need to be calling 55 people a week. So this kind of helps things circle back around. We were talking about when buyer or sellers are going to be ready. The seller lead category sheet that I've got there, that is you're gonna qualify those people, and they're gonna be A, B, or C. I don't call them A, B, or C, but it just kind of helps you to mentally figure out where they need to be. A is they're ready to go, like they're ready to go. Sometimes people will say, break out that listing paperwork right now, we're ready to list. How soon can you get your photographer in? Photography is huge. If you're not doing professional pictures, please do professional pictures. It makes such a big difference. It hurts to pay for it up front, but it makes such a huge difference. Because
Who do you use?
I use Matt Huber.
Okay.
If Matt is not available, I use Kyle Terry. Kyle does all my video work too, and I love, he does some amazing like professional videos. Like if it's something, all my luxury videos, Kyle does, and it's just, he does a great job. Who do you use, Ross?
I used Kyle Terry for a very long time. And recently, I've just started using James Weatherbolt. He used to be a realtor here in town, but he's just a little bit quicker turnaround time. So like he can get out there in 2 or 3 days, and he can get it done. He does a really, it's similar to Kyle. Like I think they use a very similar software and all of that stuff. But
I think
I
Kyle
like it
uses an
just because
editing
it's a little
service, a
different.
third-party service too.
He does.
Mhm.
I like James because it's a little different. It's not high quality. You know what I mean? Like it's not like faded around that page. It's blue. Like I mean, it's just natural.
I think regardless of who anybody, I mean, Ross sells a ton, I sell a ton, and we use professional photographers, but it doesn't matter who you use. I mean,
That's a $200 camera that I used until this year, or last year. Like.
Mine did not look that well, and that's one more thing that you can take off your plate if you want to, then you can work on the things that realtors need to be doing, which is marketing and following up on where the process is and making sure you actually sell it and get paid at the end of the transaction. Anyway, end of story, use a professional photographer. It's the best thing ever. And then, so you've got your A buyers that are A sellers that are ready to go. B, I've got somebody that I'm meeting with tomorrow, and I've been talking to them since February. And I literally just text them every 2 weeks and say, hey, just making sure we're on time. And sometimes that time frame will shift. We were supposed to list end of May, and now we're listing like in July. So just keep texting them and they'll appreciate it. Just say, hey, or give them a call, whatever it is, but just have a follow-up plan in pace. It says every 2 to 3 days or at least once a week. I think that might be a bit overkill, but you can always clarify what that is. And then anything that's over 2 months, put them in your database and call monthly. I still think 2 weeks like that. Just make sure you have a plan for them and you're not overstepping your boundaries. Question?
What's your rule of thumb? It was kind of back to what we were talking about. What's your rule of thumb when you're listing a property? If they're wanting to go with a higher price that you're not quite as comfortable with, is it a 1 week, 10 days, 2 weeks, 30 days?
Yep.
I know it's kind of probably changed.
It's different now.
6 months, but
30 minutes and no showings, then we drop it. No, I'm just kidding.
no, it's okay.
My normal market is if we had 10 days or 2 weeks around that 10 to 14 days and no offers, or if we've had 10 showings and no offers, then that's the rule of thumb that we've overpriced it. And when you know you've really overpriced it is if you have no showings. And here's another thing too, that once you get that listing, you have to know how to manage that listing. So, and that includes not in this market, but eventually this market will not always stick. So once you get that listing, then you're going to want to know how to answer their questions. You're always going to want to be the professional. This little customer service sheet just has some really nice little sweet things, because like, you know how when you're texting with somebody and you're you see the bubbles going and you've made them mad, and they're going and they're going, and they type that out and nothing ever comes through because they've erased it off because they've bit their tongue. These are some things. I appreciate how you feel. I understand. Like, these are things I see where you are coming from. So always make sure that they feel like they're heard, but then you have to stand firm. So, and just tell them up front, like you said about the 10 days or 10 showings, just say, okay, and I say this, I'm going to call you if we haven't had an offer after 10 days or 2 weeks or 10 showings. And if you have no showings, it means you have way overpriced, or the house smells like dog and they haven't fixed it, or there's some other factors. So you have to go through those basics of price, condition, location. Like, what of those three is wrong?
Follow up to that. In the old market is what I'll refer to it as.
Back in the day.
Say 12 months ago, when you were pricing properties and you thought it was priced correctly, you know, like, I mean, and it might have been, it just kind of sat for 30, 60, or maybe even 90 days.
Right.
I know you have high volume when it comes to listings. How do you manage their expectations as far as, do you have a weekly follow-up call with them to just touch base, or is it a text or an email or nothing, or do they get?
So first of all, I asked them in that little brochure thing, and I have the conversation, how do you want me to communicate with you? Like, do you want me to text? Do you want me to call? How often? Do you just want me to call it when it's sold? So I kind of know what they want from me, but then typically, so I have a spreadsheet, I have a psychotic spreadsheet that I go through every single day and say, okay, I haven't talked to such and such in so long. So I make sure that I touch base with everybody about once a week at least, unless they say we want to hear from you way more than that. But typically once a week is what I go. And I just go through, I have this is overkill, but I have a spreadsheet that has the seriousness of my sellers categorized numerically. And then I go in and I change that and I rotate them. So if I've talked to somebody and they say circumstances have changed, I move them up. And if I, all my listings, I just go through them and I make sure I call them once weekly and I put notes in what they said and when the last time I talked to them and when I'm going to talk to them again. But that's overkill, so you don't probably need to do quite that much.
How does that conversation go? Just because typically from my past experience, I'm eating crow at that point because they're like, you told us this price.
Yeah.
And it's not sold. Like, I know every house will be different, but if you have like an example of that. You're way prettier than I am. So I have to have objection handlers. So.
I'm way older than you too. And it's on the phone and my voice is not exactly soothing. So they're having to listen to my grating voice on the phone. So I guess it just depends on the situation, but I always just, say, hey, I told you I'd be calling and I just want to give you all the feedback. So at that point, I usually go through, make sure I circle back to showing time because I need to tell you some things about that too. So I go back, I pull up my showing time reports and say, okay, these are the people, here's the big thing. Well, Robin, 10 people showed it and 9 of them said it's priced correctly. Well, that means they're not interested because nobody that's serious about your house is going to be like, hey, that's a great price. Like no, nobody's going to do that. So what people are going to do is they're going to say, yeah, it's fine because they don't care enough to give you the right feedback on that. That's the only downfall about showing time, in my opinion. And then if it's getting to the point where it's super awkward, I typically just pick up the phone and if Tiffany showed my house, and like I'm not too proud to ask. I called Tiffany the other day and I said, Tiffany, you're killing me. These comps are killing me. I think this house should be way, way higher. And all your comps are way lower. So like I'll ask her opinion. And so I still think you just have conversations with other agents and then go back and say, hey, I talked to Ross and Tiffany who both showed it. And they filled out that they didn't think it was priced too high, but it's because your house smelled like dog or it just wasn't for them or whatever. So I just make sure that they know that I've been doing something, and usually people are pretty forgiving, even if it is something stupid. Okay, I priced this, it's on me. But at the end of the day, it's not selling, so we can either hash that out or we can fix it. So, and I say that in a probably nice way.
Reminder to circle back and
Showing
So
time.
I'd say I always get good feedback on showing time because I hate it when I know I have an overpriced listing or I know it smells like smoke and everybody's like, it's perfect.
It's
great,
amazing.
It's priced right.
And it's because those agents are just
You
like,
don't have to publish those to the seller, though, if you don't want to.
Yeah,
So,
I know. And you can set it so that it automatically goes. So do you all, does it have listings? Do you set your showing time up to allow your sellers to approve showings? Yeah. Okay, I'm surprised. I'm getting a lot of feedback from agents that they are not doing that. They are not putting their sellers in there. And they were like, why aren't you approving them?
Did you say you do?
Yeah.
Like, I know me, you, and Jenny do. That would be the only other person I know that does that, honestly. And I did it for years by myself.
Like I get the.
It's a total waste of time.
And then say yes, so I just go straight to me and the
Well,
client.
and I'm in appointments all day. Like I'm busy. Like it's not that I'm too busy for them, but I'm just like totally doing them a disservice. So you can go into the showing time and set that up and put the seller's information in there, and then they approve it. You still get it, so you know what's going on. So like when I get the first showing, I'm always like, hey, this is awesome, da, da, da. So that they know I'm still engaged and I haven't just sent them off to Lonely Island. But
Oh, that's great. 12 minutes.
yeah, I'm like, oh, it's amazing. But then I just, yeah, I let them do it, but I've had a lot of agents call me recently and they were like, you're not approving it? I'm like, no, how would I do
It seems
that?
like a lot of dead time.
Like
Well, it's-
literally, I'm in here right now for an hour and I've had showings pop up on here, like, what if they want to get in 10 minutes? And you also want to, when you go into showing time, this takes like 2 seconds. Make sure you go in and you put the lockbox type. Make sure you put, in this market, like usually nothing goes on that I have more than a 30-minute window available. Because some people are going to request an hour, and then your people are out driving around, and you have 12 showings that day, they're out for 12 hours. So I'm pretty mad at you because you caused that and you're miserable. What else in showing time?
Documents.
We used to do that, but nobody looks at them. We're not doing those as much anymore. We just put all the documents on the MLS. Definitely upload you have to do the seller's disclosure. Definitely upload the HOA restrictions on there, a plat. This is another thing, this is a seller's class, but just a huge learn from do as I say, not as I've done. When you can, have people initial off when you're doing a contract on a plat, if it's a new construction, or the restrictions, if it's in a subdivision, have them initial off on that, just acknowledging that they've seen those restrictions, so they don't call and say, Tommy, we thought we could put a storage building up, and you never told me, you're my agent. I'm like, you initialed the restrictions, I gave you a copy of the restrictions and have that in fire. Just, sorry, that's not a seller tip.
No, we had that one where that guy was like, he was going to initial the last page, and he was like, he read it actually that time, he was like, no pit bulls. He was like, I have 2 pit bulls.
Yes.
Remember
Yes.
that one?
Yes.
Like, just random fluke.
Yes,
but
that
just-
was that. Yeah.
Covered my butt.
Yeah, total, yes. It's all about protecting yourself. Oh my gosh, this is so huge. This is such chicken scratch, but this is so huge. Do not leave that listing appointment without giving them some indication of what they're gonna net. Because when you say to them, we're gonna sell this at 150, you would be surprised at how many sellers think they're going to get $150,000 in their pocket. So the breakdown of this is I am selling their house at 150. I'm charging them a commission, and my commission on this particular listing is 6%. You will also have a deed preparation fee of around $100, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. Let's say it's $150,000 prop. You have that PVA form. On the PVA form, it says, you can come up closer. It says what the tax rate is going to be coming out. Sometimes like May or June, it'll state the 2021 or that year's tax rate. If not, just base it on the year before. So my taxes on $150,000 are going to be X number of dollars. I divided it out by 12 months and I multiplied it back by 7 full and 1/2 month, which got me $1,101 approximate taxes. Then you've got a FedEx or wire fee to overnight or wire your mortgage payoff to the lender in a timely manner. Then you've got an attorney fee, which is $150, just paying for your part of the attorney. And then you've got a state transfer tax, which is $1 per 1,000. So if it sells at 200,000, you're going to have to be charged $200. Your approximate net prior to payoff, make sure you say that, prior to payoff is going to be $139,449. This is approximate. This is not exactly what you're going to get. I leave a copy of them. I scan a copy in myself. I put it in the file so I know what I told them. And then the next thing they're going to say is, well, Tommy, I escrow my taxes, so I'm not going to have to pay this fee. No, your mortgage payoff is over here with Chase Bank and their escrow department's over here. They do not communicate. They're going to collect your taxes up front, and within 30 days after closing, you're going to get a refund of any taxes and insurance that they've collected from you thus far this year. So make sure that they understand that. And this is huge because I've had it happen. We get to closing. I didn't give them a net sheet 15 years ago. I didn't have a net sheet, and they're like, well, we sold it at 150. What's happening? Where's the rest of my money? No, all these fees come out. And people just feel more comfortable, and they feel like the more transparent you can be, the more they're going to trust you.
And that's usually when I tell them my commission, if they've already asked, and I just like,
Yeah.
right, they never do.
In this market, people aren't asking what my commission is, they don't care.
No.
They're just like, just tell it really
They're
high.
still-
They Googled it before you walked in there, and they're just like, it's 6%, right?
Well,
Yes.
15%. No, I'm just
It's actually
kidding.
10, but I'll put you guys a discount.
We're gonna go straight down the middle.
Showing you 3%.
Ron, do you have a list of what you get with your sellers at a listing?
In that, little thing, I can send that out, I can screenshot it. It's, spare key, I asked him prior to a spare key, a plat, copy of the mortgage statement with the account numbers, an old appraisal and 12 months of utility bills, so 5 things.
And that's in here.
And we will email, I'm gonna have to take those back, because we just printed them, but I'm gonna email everybody that copy. Maybe we just printed them all out. Okay. Question. Oh, these are good ones. I don't think I printed this out though. This is setting expectations. It just has questions. If you guys want an email copy of this whole thing, it literally is start to finish, but it has questions about like, when will my house show up on the internet? Like, they need to know that because it goes live at 5 o'clock on Friday afternoon, doesn't mean it's gonna be on Zillow at 5:01. It means it might be on Zillow in 8 hours, it might be in 12 hours. Like, I don't know, Zillow's its own animal. Questions, when will you have an open house? You need to know, if you're not gonna have an open house, you need to know how to answer that question. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you live out, somebody asked me this, you live out in a farm in Winchester. Do you really want your nosy neighbors just coming through that aren't qualified, yada, yada? Like, that's not gonna be a fit. You just need to explain that. What should I do with my pet? You are the boss. Tell them to move their pet. Do not leave the Rottweiler in the house when you're showing it. Like, don't leave it fenced up out back when showing it. Because, oh, well, it's out back. They're just looking at the house. Well, no, the yard is huge and it's beautiful and you want them to go out there.
Well, it's okay to just inside the market, it's such a distraction.
Yeah. And pet beds, dog bowls, all the things, just take them out. I have a puppy dog and she's like a member of my family, but I mean, she's a dog. She might smell funny sometimes. Like, all the things, like, you just take her with you, take the stuff out. I don't want a lockbox. I don't want that. No, you need a lockbox. You need something. Oh, just put the code on the front door. I hate this one. I have one listing that is actually going to have a code, but I have had this happen. If you have a code lockbox, the buyer was standing behind the agent. Wasn't the agent's fault. Watched them put in the code and went back into the house. So just explain to them, for security purposes, we're going to use XYZ lockbox or whatever you want to do with that. Is it better to show my house vacant? That's a case by case thing. I don't know. Use your discretion on that.
What do you say if someone don't want to sign in their yard?
You want to sell your house?
That's what I said last time.
Because I want to pick up fires off your house.
I just had somebody say that, and typically I'm like, oh, it's really a good idea, but I have 2 within the last month that did, and they both went tens of thousands over listing immediately. So I think so many people are looking online. If it's a farm and it's out, I feel like that's helpful for people pulling in, but if it's just, if there's specific reasons.
Your situation with that tiny home that we saw on that acreage.
Yeah.
She was like little old lady there by herself, like on acreage in a tiny house where people could just sneak up there.
Yeah.
That was a good.
Yeah. There's certain people, there's, I don't know. I think I would just listen to their reasons, and then if it's something like,
They don't want their neighbors to.
then.
No, I want your neighbors not have a.
Then I'd say, well, go tell your neighbors in the next 2 to 3 days, and then on the next 2 days, or however many days, and then I'm gonna put a sign up when you give me the thumbs up, because you want the largest pool of buyers. So. What else have you guys got? I'm sorry, I was all over the board today.
No, that was good.
Anything helpful?
Oh,
All of it.
Any feedback?
I don't see the list of things that they need.
It's in the very,
I'm just blind. Grass.
No, it is.
I like the old appraisal idea.
Yeah.
I'm done. Hey, guys.
How long have you done the old appraisal? And how many times does it save you from having to walk through the bushes of a two-story on a basement house?
Until they dig it up, they usually do. Like, I just keep asking, and they're like, "Why can't I find it?" I'm like, "Well, here's your loan officer," and then I'll reach out to the loan officer. Like, I just keep
So
going
then
until I
you
can find it.
go off of that square footage every time, or
No, not every time.
that's just how you base your analysis beforehand?
No, Ethan Waterbury will measure if I cannot find the old